aside from,
aside from,
の他に、
aside from math, he likes all subjects.
aside from math, he likes all subjects.
数学以外、彼はすべての科目が好きだ。
She has no hobbies aside from reading.
She has no hobbies aside from reading.
読書以外に趣味はない。
They are busy aside from weekends.
They are busy aside from weekends.
週末以外は忙しい。
Aside from,
aside from,
at all costs.
at all costs.
どんな犠牲を払っても、
He wants to win the competition at all costs.
He wants to win the competition at all costs.
彼はどんな犠牲を払ってもその競技会に勝ちたい。
She will protect her family at all costs.
She will protect her family at all costs.
彼女はどんな犠牲を払っても家族を守るだろう。
They need to finish the project at all costs.
They need to finish the project at all costs.
どんな犠牲を払ってもプロジェクトを終わらせる必要がある。
At all costs.
At all costs.
At first.
At first.
最初は、
At first, I didn't like the idea.
At first, I didn't like the idea.
最初はそのアイデアが気に入らなかった。
At first, it seemed difficult.
At first, it seemed difficult.
最初は難しいように思えた。
At first, she was nervous, but then she relaxed.
At first, she was nervous, but then she relaxed.
最初は緊張していたが、その後リラックスした。
At first.
At first.
Cut off.
Cut off.
を切り離す。
The village was cut off by the storm.
The village was cut off by the storm.
村は嵐で孤立した。
He cut off a piece of the rope.
He cut off a piece of the rope.
彼はロープの一部を切り離した。
They cut off communication with the outside world.
They cut off communication with the outside world.
彼らは外界との通信を断った。
Cut off.
Cut off.
End up ing.
End up ing.
最終的にする。
She ended up buying the dress.
She ended up buying the dress.
彼女は結局そのドレスを買った。
He ended up getting lost.
He ended up getting lost.
彼は結局迷子になった。
They ended up staying at home.
They ended up staying at home.
彼らは結局家にいることにした。
End up ing.
End up ing.
Fill up.
Fill up.
を満たす。
She filled up the tank with gas.
She filled up the tank with gas.
彼女はタンクにガソリンを満たした。
He filled up the form with his details.
He filled up the form with his details.
彼は詳細を記入してフォームを満たした。
They filled up their plates with food.
They filled up their plates with food.
彼らは皿に食べ物を満たした。
Fill up.
Fill up.
In a sense.
In a sense.
ある意味で。
In a sense, it was a good experience.
In a sense, it was a good experience.
ある意味では、それは良い経験だった。
He is, in a sense, a genius.
He is, in a sense, a genius.
彼はある意味、天才だ。
They are, in a sense, pioneers.
They are, in a sense, pioneers.
彼らはある意味、先駆者だ。
In a sense.
In a sense.
In charge of.
In charge of.
を担当している。
She is in charge of the project.
She is in charge of the project.
彼女はそのプロジェクトを担当している。
He is in charge of the sales department.
He is in charge of the sales department.
彼は営業部を担当している。
They are in charge of organizing the event.
They are in charge of organizing the event.
彼らはイベントの組織を担当している。
In charge of.
In charge of.
In favor of.
In favor of.
に賛成して。
She is in favor of the new policy.
She is in favor of the new policy.
彼女は新しい政策に賛成している。
He voted in favor of the proposal.
He voted in favor of the proposal.
彼はその提案に賛成票を投じた。
They are all in favor of the plan.
They are all in favor of the plan.
彼らは皆その計画に賛成している。
In favor of.
In favor of.
In order that.
In order that.
するために。
She studied hard in order that she might pass.
She studied hard in order that she might pass.
彼女は合格するために一生懸命勉強した。
He worked late in order that he could finish.
He worked late in order that he could finish.
彼は終わらせるために遅くまで働いた。
They saved money in order that they could travel.
They saved money in order that they could travel.
彼らは旅行するためにお金を貯めた。
In order that.
In order that.
In the long run.
In the long run.
長い目で見れば。
In the long run, it will benefit everyone.
In the long run, it will benefit everyone.
長い目で見れば、それはみんなに利益をもたらすだろう。
It may be hard now, but in the long run, it will be worth it.
It may be hard now, but in the long run, it will be worth it.
今は大変かもしれないが、長い目で見ればそれだけの価値がある。
In the long run, good habits lead to success.
In the long run, good habits lead to success.
長い目で見れば、良い習慣は成功につながる。
In the long run.
In the long run.
Laugh at.
Laugh at.
を笑う。
She laughed at his joke.
She laughed at his joke.
彼女は彼の冗談を笑った。
He laughed at the funny movie.
He laughed at the funny movie.
彼は面白い映画を笑った。
They laughed at the surprise.
They laughed at the surprise.
彼らは驚きに笑った。
Laugh at.
Laugh at.
Live up to.
Live up to.
に応える。
She tried to live up to her parents' expectations.
She tried to live up to her parents' expectations.
彼女は両親の期待に応えようとした。
He lived up to his reputation.
He lived up to his reputation.
彼は評判に応えた。
They strive to live up to their ideals.
They strive to live up to their ideals.
彼らは理想に応えようと努力している。
Live up to.
Live up to.
Look forward to.
Look forward to.
を楽しみにする。
She is looking forward to the holidays.
She is looking forward to the holidays.
彼女は休日を楽しみにしている。
He looks forward to meeting new people.
He looks forward to meeting new people.
彼は新しい人々に会うことを楽しみにしている。
They look forward to the annual festival.
They look forward to the annual festival.
彼らは毎年の祭りを楽しみにしている。
Look forward to.
Look forward to.
Look over.
Look over.
を見渡す。
She looked over the documents carefully.
She looked over the documents carefully.
彼女は書類を注意深く見渡した。
He looked over the fence.
He looked over the fence.
彼はフェンスを見渡した。
They looked over the proposal before deciding.
They looked over the proposal before deciding.
彼らは決定する前に提案を見渡した。
Look over.
Look over.
Make sense.
Make sense.
意味をなす。
His explanation makes sense.
His explanation makes sense.
彼の説明は意味をなす。
It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me.
それは私には意味をなさない。
Everything she said makes sense.
Everything she said makes sense.
彼女が言ったことはすべて意味をなす。
Make sense.
Make sense.
Make the most of.
Make the most of.
を最大限に利用する。
She made the most of her opportunities.
She made the most of her opportunities.
彼女はチャンスを最大限に利用した。
He made the most of his free time.
He made the most of his free time.
彼は自由時間を最大限に利用した。
They made the most of their trip.
They made the most of their trip.
彼らは旅行を最大限に楽しんだ。
Make the most of.
Make the most of.
On business.
On business.
仕事で。
He is in Tokyo on business.
He is in Tokyo on business.
彼は仕事で東京にいる。
She traveled to Paris on business.
She traveled to Paris on business.
彼女は仕事でパリに旅行した。
They often go abroad on business.
They often go abroad on business.
彼らは仕事でよく海外に行く。
On business.
On business.
On one's own.
On one's own.
自力で。
She completed the project on her own.
She completed the project on her own.
彼女は自力でプロジェクトを完成させた。
He prefers to work on his own.
He prefers to work on his own.
彼は自分自身で働くのが好きだ。
They decided to start the business on their own.
They decided to start the business on their own.
彼らは自分たちで事業を始めることにした。
On one's own.
On one's own.
Out of order.
Out of order.
故障している。
The elevator is out of order.
The elevator is out of order.
エレベーターが故障している。
The vending machine is out of order.
The vending machine is out of order.
自動販売機が故障している。
The sign says the restroom is out of order.
The sign says the restroom is out of order.
標識にはトイレが故障していると書いてある。
Out of order.
Out of order.
Provide A with B.
Provide A with B.
A に B を提供する。
She provided him with all the information he needed.
She provided him with all the information he needed.
彼女は彼に必要な情報をすべて提供した。
He provided the team with new equipment.
He provided the team with new equipment.
彼はチームに新しい機器を提供した。
They provided the community with support.
They provided the community with support.
彼らは地域社会に支援を提供した。
Provide A with B.
Provide A with B.
Put forward.
Put forward.
を提案する。
She put forward a new idea at the meeting.
She put forward a new idea at the meeting.
彼女は会議で新しいアイデアを提案した。
He put forward a plan for the project.
He put forward a plan for the project.
彼はプロジェクトの計画を提案した。
They put forward several suggestions.
They put forward several suggestions.
彼らはいくつかの提案をした。
Put forward.
Put forward.
Remind A of B.
Remind A of B.
A に B を思い出させる。
The smell of the sea reminds me of my childhood.
The smell of the sea reminds me of my childhood.
海の匂いが私に子供時代を思い出させる。
This song reminds him of his first love.
This song reminds him of his first love.
この歌は彼に初恋を思い出させる。
The photo reminds them of their trip to Italy.
The photo reminds them of their trip to Italy.
この写真は彼らにイタリア旅行を思い出させる。
Remind A of B.
Remind A of B.
Rob A of B.
Rob A of B.
A から B を奪う。
The thief robbed her of her purse.
The thief robbed her of her purse.
泥棒は彼女から財布を奪った。
He was robbed of his watch.
He was robbed of his watch.
彼は時計を奪われた。
They robbed the bank of thousands of dollars.
They robbed the bank of thousands of dollars.
彼らは銀行から何千ドルも奪った。
Rob A of B.
Rob A of B.
Run over.
Run over.
を引く。
She accidentally ran over a squirrel.
She accidentally ran over a squirrel.
彼女は誤ってリスを引いた。
He almost ran over a pedestrian.
He almost ran over a pedestrian.
彼は歩行者を引きそうになった。
They saw a car run over a pothole.
They saw a car run over a pothole.
彼らは車が穴を引くのを見た。
Run over.
Run over.
Set up.
Set up.
を設立する。
They set up a new company.
They set up a new company.
彼らは新しい会社を設立した。
He set up the equipment for the experiment.
He set up the equipment for the experiment.
彼は実験のための機器を設置した。
She set up a meeting with the client.
She set up a meeting with the client.
彼女はクライアントとの会議を設定した。
Set up.
Set up.
Show up at.
Show up at.
に現れる。
She showed up at the party unexpectedly.
She showed up at the party unexpectedly.
彼女は予期せずパーティーに現れた。
He always shows up late to meetings.
He always shows up late to meetings.
彼はいつも会議に遅れて現れる。
They didn't show up at the appointment.
They didn't show up at the appointment.
彼らは約束の時間に現れなかった。
Show up at.
Show up at.
Stand up to.
Stand up to.
に抵抗する。
She stood up to the bully.
She stood up to the bully.
彼女はいじめっ子に立ち向かった。
He stood up to his boss.
He stood up to his boss.
彼は上司に立ち向かった。
They stood up to the unfair treatment.
They stood up to the unfair treatment.
彼らは不公平な扱いに立ち向かった。
Stand up to.
Stand up to.
Suffer from.
Suffer from.
に苦しむ。
She suffers from allergies.
She suffers from allergies.
彼女はアレルギーに苦しんでいる。
He suffers from chronic pain.
He suffers from chronic pain.
彼は慢性的な痛みに苦しんでいる。
They suffer from a lack of resources.
They suffer from a lack of resources.
彼らは資源不足に苦しんでいる。
Suffer from.
Suffer from.
Take back.
Take back.
を撤回する。
She took back her words.
She took back her words.
彼女は自分の言葉を撤回した。
He took back the faulty product.
He took back the faulty product.
彼は不良品を回収した。
They took back the offer.
They took back the offer.
彼らはその提案を撤回した。
Take back.
Take back.
Take part in.
Take part in.
に参加する。
She takes part in the local theater group.
She takes part in the local theater group.
彼女は地元の劇団に参加している。
He took part in the marathon last year.
He took part in the marathon last year.
彼は昨年マラソンに参加した。
They are taking part in the charity event.
They are taking part in the charity event.
彼らはチャリティーイベントに参加している。
Take part in.
Take part in.
Throw away.
Throw away.
を捨てる。
She threw away the old magazines.
She threw away the old magazines.
彼女は古い雑誌を捨てた。
He threw away the broken toys.
He threw away the broken toys.
彼は壊れたおもちゃを捨てた。
They threw away the spoiled food.
They threw away the spoiled food.
彼らは腐った食べ物を捨てた。
Throw away.
Throw away.
Turn into.
Turn into.
に変わる。
The caterpillar turned into a butterfly.
The caterpillar turned into a butterfly.
芋虫が蝶に変わった。
She turned the old house into a beautiful home.
She turned the old house into a beautiful home.
彼女は古い家を美しい家に変えた。
The situation turned into a disaster.
The situation turned into a disaster.
その状況は災害に変わった。
Turn into.
Turn into.
Walk out on.
Walk out on.
を見捨てる。
She walked out on her family.
She walked out on her family.
彼女は家族を見捨てた。
He walked out on the job.
He walked out on the job.
彼は仕事を放棄した。
They walked out on the negotiation.
They walked out on the negotiation.
彼らは交渉を放棄した。
Walk out on.
Walk out on.
Wear out.
Wear out.
を使い果たす、すり減らす。
She wore out her favorite shoes.
She wore out her favorite shoes.
彼女はお気に入りの靴を使い果たした。
He wore out the pages of the book.
He wore out the pages of the book.
彼はその本のページを使い果たした。
They wore out their welcome.
They wore out their welcome.
彼らは歓迎されなくなった。
Wear out.
Wear out.
Deal in.
Deal in.
を扱う。
They deal in rare books.
They deal in rare books.
彼らは希少本を扱っている。
He deals in antiques.
He deals in antiques.
彼は骨董品を扱っている。
The company deals in electronic goods.
The company deals in electronic goods.
その会社は電子製品を扱っている。
Deal in.
Deal in.
Fall apart.
Fall apart.
崩壊する。
The old building is falling apart.
The old building is falling apart.
古い建物が崩壊している。
She fell apart after the news.
She fell apart after the news.
彼女はそのニュースに打ちのめされた。
The relationship fell apart.
The relationship fell apart.
その関係は崩壊した。
Fall apart.
Fall apart.
Figure out.
Figure out.
を理解する。
He figured out how to fix the problem.
He figured out how to fix the problem.
彼はその問題の解決方法を理解した。
She finally figured out the answer to the question.
She finally figured out the answer to the question.
彼女はついにその質問の答えを理解した。
They figured out a way to save money.
They figured out a way to save money.
彼らはお金を節約する方法を見つけ出した。
Figure out.
Figure out.
Find out.
Find out.
を見つけ出す。
She found out the truth about the situation.
She found out the truth about the situation.
彼女はその状況の真実を見つけ出した。
He found out that he passed the exam.
He found out that he passed the exam.
彼は試験に合格したことを知った。
They found out how to solve the puzzle.
They found out how to solve the puzzle.
彼らはパズルの解き方を見つけ出した。
Find out.
Find out.
In a way.
In a way.
ある意味で。
In a way, it was a blessing in disguise.
In a way, it was a blessing in disguise.
ある意味では、それは災い転じて福となるだった。
He is, in a way, responsible for the outcome.
He is, in a way, responsible for the outcome.
彼はある意味、その結果に責任がある。
They are, in a way, pioneers in their field.
They are, in a way, pioneers in their field.
彼らはある意味、彼らの分野の先駆者だ。
In a way.
In a way.